Okay, hi guys. My name is Kanaya Rabbit, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to ride a skateboard. I got this skateboard for probably about a year. It's fairly new. I haven't had much wear on it, and I'm more of a distance rider. I'm still getting the tricks, so I'm not that experienced, so I know well enough to ride and to get places. This started off as like a form of transportation for me because I didn't have a car. So this is how I ride, and the way I learned was riding 2 hours across town to see my friends every night. So I kind of forced myself into riding, and it really turned into a form of like a hobby and a way I can just go to myself and ride and listen to music. So it's kind of a way of peace for me too. This is something I need to say to myself, but it's important to walk into this with confidence when you're riding and to know that it's going to be okay. I know it's really scary hopping on the board at first because finding your balance, finding your footwork, your style, it's a lot to go at first, especially when you're finding your board, picking out your board. Everything I picked here, I picked myself and built myself, so it's all built kind of to me, and I haven't rode it in a while, so it's going to be squeaky. So I apologize for that. Before we start, I would like to say that it's important to know that safety is also important. So when you're riding, it's good to have elbow pads, knee pads, helmet. I didn't have these at first, and I learned the hard way. And I got rocks all in my hands and rocks in my elbows. So it's important to have safety when you're walking into this. And I also really, really recommend when you start on you don't start with your wheels on a hard surface like this because it's easy to slip when you're popping on it first because you don't know the balance of your board yet. So I would recommend starting on grass or like I have here, I have a blanket just to keep it stable. So when I first started, I actually started on a longboard. A longboard is my longboard is probably about like almost half the size, or double the size of that skateboard. So it was really, really big, and it was a lot easier to learn to ride on that. And I really recommend if you're going to be into skateboarding or skating in general, start with a longboard because it's so much easier, way easier, and you have so much more balance on it. I was going to go through the skateboard anatomy, but the person before who built the skateboard kind of covered that for me. So really all you need to know for riding is that this area right here is going to be your deck, which is where you're going to stand on, and the grip tape is helping you stick on there. And your trucks, I drew a little graph for this. So in case if any of you guys couldn't see, this is like the trucks right here. This is what's going to help you turn when you put your weight to one side. It's going to help you go different places. So I just kind of built it, or drew this so you guys had this so you can see. Now, when we're coming onto the board, it's important to know the foot placement and your stances. So there's two common stances to riding a skateboard, which is regular, which is what I ride, and then there's goofy, which is it's not really common, but a lot of people still ride this. And as you can see, with each foot placement, the right is on the front and the left is on the front for the other. So the best way to determine this is to, if someone pushes you from behind and pushes that force on you, and the first leg that comes out is your leg that's probably most likely going to be in the front because it's your stronger leg, your leg that you find more balance on. And another way to figure this out if you're by yourself, think of yourself like skating on ice, and if you're skating on ice, which first foot is going to be first, that's your foot that's going to be in the front. So for me, before we get into this, I'd like to say it's also good to wear skate shoes. So like, even shoes like those, just like really flat on the bottom. I prefer to wear Vans, like those right there. I prefer to wear Vans. I didn't bring any today, so I have slippers, so I'm just gonna go barefoot. Don't go barefoot though. Do not go barefoot. So when we're standing on the board, when we're standing on there, I recommend you just get a feel for it. Just stand on it. Don't go nowhere. Just kind of feel for it. Rotate your ankles. Kind of get a feel for what the board feels like and understand where your feet are going to be standing when you're riding, basically. Because this is not how we're going to be pushing, but after we do the pushing motion, when we stand back on the board, this is how we're going to be gliding. So for me, because I ride regular, this is going to be where my left foot is. And I typically put my left foot, so as you can see, these screws here are considered the hardware, and it's a really good guideline for where you put your feet, in my opinion. So I put my left foot a little bit above, like a little bit behind the hardware, like about right here. And then my right foot, my back foot, I sometimes put it like literally right on the hardware or right here. So when I'm standing on it, my back foot has a lot more control back there versus if it was like up here or way back here. It's just for balance purposes, and you can find your own way to stand. Okay. So, it's important to know, I'm sure you know that when you're skateboarding, you do the whole kicking motion and then you get back on. So your balance and is going to shift. It's going to shift from going from here to all of your weight being distributed to one leg. So when we're learning that, it's important to know that, like, I'll show you the motion that really helped me understand this. When I was taught, one of the things that some person said to me was, just kind of put your arm or your leg on there and allow yourself to feel what it feels like to kind of put your weight on here and just feel for what it feels like. That's really all we're doing with starting to skateboard. We're not getting into tricks or distance or speed. We're just getting a feel for balancing on the board in general. So kind of just really just get used to it, basically. So now, I forgot to mention this, but when we're initially standing on the board, it's important to figure out what the nose of the board is. So when we're looking at a board like this, the nose of the board is going to be a much longer and thinner end versus the tail is a more short, flat end. So if you look at this board, it's much more longer and like thinner versus the side is shorter and kind of more flat. So that's how you're going to know which side is the front and which side's the back. So now we're going to be kind of putting our balance to the test and learning how to actually push. So after you've had a feel for what the board feels like when you initially stand on it and get that feeling for it, like when he was building the board, it's important to figure out what you like. So when you're shifting it like this, figure out what you like, and if you need to tighten it, you can tighten it. So now when we come from here, we're going to learn to put our foot like right here. I don't know how to explain this, but basically your foot's going to be rotating to be going this way. Because if we're going to be pedaling and we're looking this way, it's going to be really hard to get going. So when we're skateboarding, our foot's going to be pivoting, and we're just going to be going like this motion. And that's where this comes in, because when we're pedaling, we're kind of basically doing that motion. And now, after you get the hang of that, you can actually start with going forward. So, step on the board in that same position where we're facing this way, and then kind of shift your foot to right here. And you just kind of find your balance and put your foot on the board. And after you kick, you'll find yourself to stand this way again. It's kind of a whole motion of shifting to this way, like this, to back to standing like this. So the only time you're going to be going forward or standing forward is when you're pushing. And right when you get on the board, you're going to shift back to this because it helps you get your balance. And in turning when you're like this, it helps you because you go like, you're going to be going back and forth just to go left or right. So I'll demonstrate that again. So yeah, it's going to take lots and lots of practice. I'm telling you, it's going to take a lot of practice to get the hang of this. So like I said, come in with confidence, come in with a positive attitude, like be optimistic, and don't get let down if you fall, because I'm letting you know right now, you are going to fall. you are going to fall, and that's the hard truth that you have to face. And when you know that, when you come into it knowing that, you kind of like, you don't really care for it anymore. You know, you kind of test yourself, you push your limits. So, another thing I would say is how to fall. It's important to know how to fall because with skateboarding, it comes with a lot of accidents and a lot of injuries. So when you're falling, I recommend not falling with your hands, not trying to catch yourself, because that's how I got rocks stuck in my hand. So you really don't want to do that. And with the speed in which you're going and the weight of your body, it's a lot of strain on your wrist. So I don't recommend doing that. So when you're falling, I recommend falling on your shoulder, falling like this, or trying to land on your bottom like that. The last thing I want to say is braking, because this is something I didn't learn initially when I first started skating, and I was braking totally wrong, a dangerous way, honestly, a way that could have really, really hurt my ankle. So when we're skateboarding and when you are at this point where you're like, okay, I need to stop, typically what I see people do is the staggering ankle, where they stop themselves like this over and over again, which you don't want to do that, because when you're going at speed really fast or down the hill, your ankle could possibly go and snap the other way, just by the force of you putting your ankle down and the speed. So when you're braking, it's going to get hard to get used to this, but I learned the best way is to glide your foot. So as you're speeding, you're going to put all your weight onto one foot and balance. Just glide your foot across the ground. And that's the best way to brake. That's why it's important to have skate shoes, good skate shoes, because when you're gliding across the ground, it's going to help you brake, basically. So yeah, that's how I ride skateboard.